Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's Vanna over at the ASDC. Welcome to today's T3 webinar. We are excited to continue our digital organizing series that we began on Monday with our email organizing series or webinar. And today we will continue the series by talking about social media and digital organizing. And as you can see there on your screen and also via webcam, we are pleased to be joined by Heather Reed, who is the Senior Content Manager for the Democratic National Committee. And as I mentioned, we'll talk social media organizing, but specifically we will talk about the importance of a strong digital program, types of content to post to social media, what to post, what not to post. We'll talk about how to build a digital program. So Heather will walk us through all of that here momentarily. Before we get started, though, I would like to go over a few friendly reminders for you all to keep in mind, especially for those of you who were just joining us on our T3 series. A couple things to keep in mind. You all are in listen-only mode, but we never want to discourage you from asking questions, so feel free to utilize the questions box that is outlined there in red. You should see that on your GoToWebinar module that is on your screen. And if you'll see there is an orange button on the GoToWebinar screen, or excuse me, on the GoToWebinar module that you can see there on the screen. If you are in a place where you can't find the questions box for some reason, locate that orange arrow on your screen and just click that, and the GoToWebinar module will pop out there for you. So don't be afraid to ask questions throughout the webinar. No question is a dumb question. We've got a wide variety of participants, folks who are new to organizing as well as people who have been around for a while, so don't be shy about questions. So one of the last things there is, of course, to connect with us via social media. This is our social media training, so we want you all active on social media. There's our hashtag for Twitter. It's hashtag ASDCT and then the number 3. So use that hashtag on Twitter, get the conversation started, let people know that we are underway with the second part of our digital organizing series tonight. So definitely get on Twitter and let the world know. So a couple other friendly reminders here for you. I do want to show you all this box. I do get feedback every now and then in our questions box throughout webinars that people can't see the presentation for whatever reason. The PowerPoint, the words on the PowerPoint are too small. So GoToWebinar does have a zoom feature there. So feel free to increase the size of your screen by just clicking that. I think it defaults to 79%, so you can click that and make your screen 100%. That should make everything bigger for you there. And GoToWebinar. A couple other things. I think I mentioned this on our last webinar, and I'll mention this every webinar throughout. If you attend live sessions, as you all are here tonight, you don't have to take the corresponding quiz. Our quizzes are only for people who watch the recorded versions of our webinar. So if you're attending a live session, don't think you have to take the quiz. And lastly here, before I turn it over to Heather, I do want to remind you all of our pop quiz feature. We will, throughout the webinar, announce pop quiz. It's a great way for us to take a pause in the webinar and just a fun little feature that we've incorporated. So through our pop quizzes, we will announce a question, and the first person to type the answer into the questions box will win a small prize from the ASDC. So definitely be sure to stay alert throughout the webinar. And be the first person to answer, and we'll send you a prize. So be on the lookout for our quizzes tonight. So without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to Heather Reed to kick off tonight's T3 webinar, which again will cover social media organizing. So Heather.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you guys all for being with us tonight. Like Vanna said, we're going to talk about social media, digital organizing, specifically how you can build your own digital program in state, whether or not that's for an official page that you're managing or for your own personal pages looking to build your own brand. So digital is about making the Democratic Party or the resistance stronger on the internet. To make this happen, us here at the digital team at the DNC work with state parties, we work with campaigns, we work with down ballot candidates and activists like you to share resources and elevate and highlight everyone's digital programs. Hopefully, our hope is that soon there's going to be a digital staffer in every state that can help you build a strong digital program. I know some of you guys have that already, but we're hopeful that that will come for everyone soon. Digital is important because it's the front line of being able to speak to your supporters and the people that you want to hear your message, and it's your biggest opportunity to have an authentic voice and to convey your message to the people who most need to hear it. It is the front line of where a lot of people now will look for information and breaking news and ways that they can help be involved in this cause. So our goal is to help make digital a part of the conversation from the very beginning instead of an afterthought. So the goal here is to make it part of your plans from the beginning of the idea to its completion and all the things that you're doing. So like we said, just to go over the agenda, we're going to go over a few things. Why do we have a digital program? How do you get started? What can you post? What's good to post? What's bad to post? And how you can build a program for yourself. And we'll try to leave some time for questions at the end as well. So why digital? More and more campaigns and committees are becoming invested in digital. It's really important to apply a strategy to your digital work to help meet some of your online goals for organizing. Right now, I just want to talk to you about what digital is good at. It is good at reaching new audiences that you may have not been able to engage with before. It's good at sharing your values in a positive way or a negative way, whatever you want, and recruiting potential volunteers and, like I said, new people to your program to help out with what they're most interested in. I think we all know that there's an incredible amount of energy and enthusiasm around values that run antithetical to the people who are in charge in Washington and in a lot of our states right now. So our job is to use digital to harness that energy and make sure it translates into offline action. It's also a good way to communicate last-minute information. If you think about election days and days when polling place hours might change at the very last minute, or a polling place might change, or you need a rain location for an event and you need to let people who are coming to that event know where to go. This is a great way to do that. It's a great way to meet people where they are. So there are a few pillars to strong digital programs. One of them is fundraising, which you guys talked about a little bit on Monday, I think. One of them is, when you talked about email, one of them is messaging. Or communications, and the other is organizing, or for those of you guys running field programs right now, field. If you take any circle out of this diagram, then digital is missing one of the pillars that makes it work best and be most effective for your campaigns. So we have to understand all those plans and how they relate to a strong program. So why is this important? Why is it important to invest in stuff that seems kind of silly, like how you say things on Facebook or how often you're on Twitter and things like that? Well, we know from the cycle, after spending more money on ads than we've ever spent before, that some of the traditional ways that we reach voters are not as effective as they once were. Here's just some interesting stats for you guys. We receive many more ad messages in a day than most people did 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we received about 2,000 messages a day. That is up to 5,000. The adult attention span is down, and half of web users expect a website to load in 2 seconds or less, and they will most likely leave a site that hasn't loaded within 3 seconds. So it's important to be succinct and communicative and ask people for what you want in the digital space to get the most out of it. The important thing about digital, we go where the voters are. In the past, there have often been only a few entry points to help out with campaigns or with their state parties or with ballot initiatives or anything that might be important to a local area at the time. You attend an event, you call someone's office, you receive an email, but you see an ad. Now, in addition to that, there's a whole lot of other stuff. There's text messages, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Snapchat, there's a whole bunch of other things, and on and on and on. For the purposes of today, we're mostly going to focus on social media. So let's talk about social media and things that you should post. The simple rule is post about what you're doing. Who are you? Who is your organization if you're running a page for your organization? What are you doing on a daily basis, and what do you care about? And how can people who care about the same thing get involved in that too? It sounds pretty simple. If your campaign or your county party or whoever you're working with doesn't have a Facebook or Twitter account, then you can start there. If you don't have a Twitter, just a quick aside, if you don't have a Twitter account right now, but you think you might want one in the future, I would recommend going online and creating a username and kind of snatching it out of the ether for yourself so you can lock it down and somebody else doesn't get it by the time that you decide you want it. The great part about being online is that even though you are talking to theoretically a huge number of voters at one time, you still have the opportunity to be really personal by telling your own story or the story of other supporters and making concrete asks for people to get involved in whatever issue you are passionate about. So let's talk about a little bit more about some of the types of content. Facebook is the easiest one, the one that most people know and are most familiar with, so we'll start there. So what should you post? In terms of positive content, talk about what you're doing to elect Democrats. That means next time you go to a phone bank or next time you go to a county Democrats meeting, take a picture. Include a link to how people can RSVP to come to the next event that they now feel bad that they missed out on because they saw your great picture. Take pictures of local Democrats doing good work. Post articles about new legislative achievements. Did your state just defeat a right-to-work bill? Like, that's a great thing to post on Facebook. Post about local events that people can start coming to. And especially as we get back into election season, more volunteer opportunities. It's also great to highlight statewide elected Democrats as much as possible to kind of talk about good things, aspirational things that we want other Democrats in states to be doing. That said, I know many of you currently have campaigns going or will soon, so support your local Democrats running for office after the primaries, especially volunteer opportunities, free events, things that you want people to come to. Conversely, there's also negative content. People love negative content right now. You can talk about Donald Trump if you have a Republican governor or a Republican senator. You can talk about them. Talk about articles, find and share articles that are relevant to current issues in your state. I know that several of you, Florida, New Hampshire, to name a few, have had some very spicy things happening in your state legislature with some of your legislators recently. That is totally fine to highlight. Talk about things that they've done poorly. Hold them accountable for their bad actions and don't let things fly under the radar that deserve attention. So let's get down into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty. Things to know. This isn't a hard and fast rule, and it's changed a little bit in the past few years, but images and videos generally do pretty well on Facebook. It's just helpful to catch people's eye and give them a reason to stop when they're scrolling through their news feed. The one thing to know about Facebook is the way the calculations for what users see, which is called the Facebook algorithm, is constantly changing. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's harmful. So basically, there are no rules. Sometimes that you're going to have stuff that you don't expect to do really well that does, and conversely, stuff that you are really excited about that doesn't perform as well as you think it should. I often get asked the question, like, how do you make something go viral? And the real answer is, there's no real answer, because if we knew, people would just do it all the time. And then there'd be no strategy behind what we're doing. But generally, aim for one post a day on Facebook, maybe more if you have a big event going on. Like if you have a town hall with an elected official, it's great to take a picture when you get there, show a picture of you and other people excited in line to get in. Maybe post a video of you getting to ask a question that you wanted to ask. And then maybe a wrap-up of how you felt like things went, what's your plan for next time, how can other people who didn't get to go to this town hall today join you the next time there is one. Otherwise, encourage clicks on the posts that you're sharing. If part of what you want to do is educate people either about an elected official or a candidate or an issue, phrase your text in a way that makes people want to click on it and read it. If you're not sure how to do that, just write, learn more, read more here, watch, and that should help out. For images, if you want to post images on Facebook, this is helpful to know. Graphics and photos should ideally be 1200 by 1200 pixels, but take a picture on your phone, put it on Facebook, it's fine. If you're going to post pictures from your phone, my biggest ask is that you take the photo in landscape mode, so hold your phone sideways instead of vertically and take a picture that way. Generally, keep it brief. While there is no character limit on Facebook, shorter is always better. If you write a long paragraph, you will lose people who don't make it all the way through the paragraph. And that's important to keep them engaged and wanting to read what you're writing. So, getting started on Facebook for people who are managing a page. You can go like fan pages, like pages for candidates, like pages for campaigns or other elected officials, for your county party, for your local chapter of Indivisible, or whatever you'd like. If you're managing an actual page, you can also like all of those things as your page, which kind of gives you a little bit of good karma and also increases the chance that those pages will like you back and share your own content and therefore help you have a bigger audience. So when you go to a page, if you see these 3 dots right at the top, click those 3 dots and scroll down to where you see like as your page, and it will give you either the option to choose which page or accept if you're only managing one page, and then boom, you're done. You're on your way to more people and more likes and more shares. Right there. So one of the reasons that your pages exist is to serve as an educational resource. So you should be posting about things that are going on at all levels of government, whether it's how, in this case, the Indiana Democratic Party did, announcing how federal changes will affect their state programs. Post this at the state level, post this at the local level, whatever works best for you. Your goal should be to educate people. Other things that are good to do, particularly in the era of energy that we were talking about, is to post photos of events that you are attending or that your supporters are attending. This goes back to kind of the idea of telling your story and kind of creating a sense of like fear of missing out and making people want to participate in something that they maybe didn't get the chance to participate in today. Other good examples of things to post besides protests, though there are a lot of protests right now, so like please continue. An event with a party chair is a good thing to post, an event with your Young Democrats, things like that. Don't be exclusive, make it personal. Post pictures of you, post pictures of your friends, post pictures of people that you just made friends with at this event. That's great. Just tell the story and make other people want to be involved. So if you're going to do that, how do you do that? So right here, you can just include the text up at the top that you'd like other people to see. Like we said, can try to make it short. If you need to quote something or if you need a little bit more time to explain, that's great. I would definitely say there's no reason that a Facebook post needs to be more than 3 sentences if you're sharing something from one of your pages. You can tag key players if you want to tag an elected official in your state, your governor, your county Democratic Party. You can tag them. If you see where it says talking points memo here highlighted, that's tagged. You can just go ahead and type the @ sign and start typing what you would like to tag and select it. There'll be a drop-down menu that appears and you can just select it from the drop-down menu. Pretty easy. Just again, less is more on Facebook. You don't want people to have to spend all the time reading your article, reading your paragraph and post around the article. You want them to click through and read the article or watch the video. I'm going to talk really quickly about Facebook Live. I'm sure that a lot of people probably have some very intense interest in Facebook Live, which is great because I love it. So we're just going to go over this really quickly, and if you have more questions on it, I'm obviously will be able to answer them. So Facebook Live is a really easy way to share events that you're having with your whole Facebook viewership. It basically means that you are sending a live stream to people's Facebook feeds from your phone. This is a great picture of my couch, so in case anyone is really interested in that. So a few things to know. Facebook Live on a basic level is done from your phone, not another camera or a computer. There's some more advanced ways to do it from cameras and several cameras and stuff like that, but for our purposes, you're going to be doing Facebook Live from your phone. That said, if you want to Facebook Live an event, you will need to be, if you're working with other folks, you'll need to find someone who's willing to not use their phone for the duration of the event, or you'll need to have some kind of like spare device, phone, tablet, iPad that you can use. Like I said, there's more sophisticated setups. If you're serious about this and your group is someone who has a lot of protests or has a lot of trainings or town hall meetings or rallies or things that you think would be good for your live audience to see, my one piece of advice would be to, I think that you can buy a tripod on Amazon for $12. I would highly recommend doing that. The footage is imminently better. And when footage is more stable, when it doesn't move around, when you can't tell that someone's hand is shaking while they're holding the phone, you get more views, more people engage with it, more people share it, more people leave comments, and that's what you want to do. One other tip is that if you have notifications on for other apps, like if your phone's going to vibrate, if somebody texts you, maybe turn those off so your phone doesn't shake while you're doing it. The only other thing is always write some text so your audience knows what they're looking at. Again, in this, just like in photos, you should be holding you should be using your phone in a landscape view, sideways. It looks better when people look at it on Facebook, and it just generally gives you a little bit more control. If there's one thing that you leave this presentation with, it's please take your photos and videos in landscape mode, not portrait mode. And one more thing to point out for personal use, if you see this green arrow under my name where it says friends, you can adjust your audience to be specific people that you want it to be. Whether you want it to be super public so anyone in the world can see it, whether you want a live, I don't know why you would want this, but whether you want a live stream that only you can see and go back to later, that's an option. So like I said, lots more to know about Facebook Live, but if you have questions about it, please let me know. All right, that's pretty much the quick gist for Facebook. Questions about that?
Yeah, we actually have several questions, Heather, and I'll ask a few just because I want you to get through the entire presentation.
Sure.
Going back to liking something as your page, Susan is asking, can you explain again what happens when you like as your page?
Sure. So whoever's managing that page, say you were managing a page for a county Democratic Party, and you went to go like the page for your state Democratic Party as your page. The benefit to doing so is that, one, the people who are running that state page see that you have liked their page. It gives you a little bit of good karma, and it also makes those bigger pages with bigger audiences more likely to like and share the things that you're putting out there, which is nothing but good because all it does is increases your own reach and your own audience.
Perfect. Another question here, Facebook ads, are they worth it?
It depends. It depends on what you're doing. They're definitely much more worth it than Twitter or Instagram ads, just in case any folks are looking at those. I think it would depend on what you're doing. So if you have questions, we can circle back offline. But generally, Facebook ads are fairly cheap, and you only pay for people who are actually clicking through or signing up or watching the video that you are putting out. So generally, I think they're a good thing.
Good. JC Puckett is asking, is it better to share other people's posts or repost it yourself?
I think that two things. If it's from a page that you want to either help out because they have smaller numbers than you and you want to help elevate the good things that they're doing, it's good to share their posts. I would say if you are going to share other people's posts, you should always, always, always write your own post to go with it. So if you're sharing something on Facebook and you click the share button, you'll see two options, one that says share now and two that says share ... Always hit share ... It lets you write your own copy, kind of put your own spin and your own comment on it, and then allows you to share the post from someone else. If it's a news article, feel free to just write your own post about it. But if it's an event invitation or someone else's video or someone else's photos, it's kind of nice to share the things that they've done.
Great. And last question here, and then I'll let you get back on to talking about Twitter, Heather. A couple of people are asking about boosting. How does boosting a post work, and then do you get a lot more exposure?
Yeah, I mean, I think that boosting a post is, again, helpful for people who want to invest some time and money in Facebook ads. For people who are not familiar, often if you post something and it does reasonably well, you'll get a notification from Facebook that says, congratulations, your post is performing 30% better than the other posts on your page. Boost it with $5 or some increment of money. Normally, Facebook's boost asks are relatively small dollar amounts, but conversely, the number of people who see it for that dollar amount is not very big. So if it's something that you're very concerned about people seeing and you want people outside of your normal post audience to maybe see it and you see that it does well, it could be worth it for a particular post. But I think I think most of the time it would be more worth it if you start out with something already as an ad and decide to boost it after you want to increase its performance. Like we said a little bit before, on Facebook, there aren't really that many rules and the rules keep changing. So if you find that boosting it really works for you and really ups your numbers and your engagement, then go for it.
Great. 30-second add-on to that, just as a follow-up, because I want to make sure people are clear. I've had a number of people asking what is boosting on Facebook and who sees the boost. So if you can just answer that before you move on.
Yeah. So like I said, there's a way to take a post that you've posted from your page. Say you see a good article about something crummy that one of your local Republican elected officials has done. You write some really awesome text, you feel great about it, you post it, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people start seeing it, more people than you thought. You'll get a notification from Facebook that says your post is performing really well. Spend $5 to boost this ad for up to 500 more people to see it. Which those are kind of arbitrary numbers, but basically a post that started out as just a regular post, you can put some money behind it, make it a little bit of a pseudo ad and kind of expand your audience. So more people will see it, either people who follow you but probably wouldn't have seen it on their news feed, or people who don't follow you but have a lot of friends who do.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So let's move on to Twitter. Twitter's a little bit different. So getting started on Twitter. First things first, choose a handle. If you do not yet have a Twitter account, but you think sometime in the next any number of years, 5 years, 10 years, you would like a Twitter account, I would highly recommend that you go online and create an account for yourself now, so you can keep the username that you want, and so that by the time that you decide you want it, someone hasn't taken it already. Your Twitter handle starts with the @sign. It's normally your name or some variation of your name. For example, I am @HKReed. It's close to my name. It's easily identifiable. It's pretty short. There's also others, @Cory Booker, @Jean Shaheen, @Senator Stabenow, that all follow this kind of same naming convention. After you choose a handle, you should write a bio. This should include some details about who you are, what you do, and what kind of things people should expect you to be tweeting about. If you tweet a lot about taking this outside of politics, if you tweet a lot about a particular sports team, like go ahead and hashtag White Sox in your Twitter profile. And then that way when people search for that, they're more likely to find your profile. For things that you'll be tweeting about somewhat regularly, if you're running an account for a state party or a local activist group or a county party or a county committee or anything like that, there's also an option on when you create your Twitter bio to add a website. If there's a site to direct people to, you can direct it to that. If your group is small enough but you don't have your own site, you can direct it back to your group's Facebook page, or you can direct it to your state party, or you can direct it to like a national group for like your local chapter. It's great to like if you're running kind of one of the state party pages, like your bio can just be something like working to elect Democrats in this state or this county, or to this school board or whatever it is. Just very straightforward, gives people an idea of what you're there, why you're there, and what your purpose is. Next thing is to pick a profile photo and a cover photo. If you're tweeting for yourself or as an individual, that's normally a headshot of some kind, because generally when people see Twitter profile photos, they're relatively small. If you're tweeting for an organization, most organizations use a logo or some variation of their logo. And then your cover can be more descriptive photos, images. If people take a look at what other politicians in the state are using, what are other groups and organizations in the state using? Is it a shot of them marching in a parade? Is it a shot of them meeting their constituents? Is it a landscape shot of some piece of landscape that's like native to your state or very famous in your state? Think about like state landmarks or other events or stuff like that. You can really have fun with this one, so whatever works for you normally works. So other stuff, how should you tweet? Each tweet is 140 characters or less. There is no getting around that. If you add a link to your tweet, all links are 23 characters, no matter how long your actual link is. So it doesn't matter if you think you have a really short one. If you think that Democrats.org is only 15 characters, I don't know how many characters it is, but if you think that's going to save you characters, it's not. Twitter automatically makes all links 23 characters no matter what. So if you want to include a link, make sure you're leaving space for that when you're thinking about what to write. For those of you guys who've been tweeting for a while, you will remember the time when photos and videos and GIFs used to also take up 23 or 24 characters. Those don't anymore. You can add up to 4 photos to any post. You can add videos, you can add GIFs, and they don't take up any characters, which is great. Lots of accounts use GIFs to show reactions to certain things. If you guys aren't familiar, for anyone who's not familiar, it's kind of like they look like little short videos or reaction shots where you see someone like rolling their eyes or cheering or something like that. You know, a good GIF of like President Obama dancing or a puppy falling asleep or something that can accurately depict how you feel and how you would react to something is a great place in your tweet. If you're wondering where you can find them, you can use a site called Giphy, Giphy, and there's a download button. Download it. You can search for any kind of reaction you want, download it, and you can add it to your tweet just like a photo or a video. So on Facebook, we talked about how you should always provide your own text when you're sharing a post. On Twitter, that's not always necessary. Some of the things that you can do don't require you to weigh in at all. You can just retweet someone. A simple retweet will work. You can also quote tweet someone else's tweet. So take their tweet, make it show up for you, and have a full 140 characters to give your own reaction and your own commentary. And we'll go over that a little bit more in a minute. So what should you tweet? Relevant articles. If you're like me and you think long links look ugly when you tweet something, you can use a site called bit.ly, bit.ly, to shorten your links, to make them a little bit more pleasing to the eye. When you're putting those links in, give people enough information, just like Facebook, to make them want to click through and read the rest of the article. If you're not sharing an article, you should be giving people information about your work or your stories. Twitter is a really good way to share short snippets of what your day is like and make other people want to get involved. And everyone's audience is a little bit different, and as you do more and more things, you'll figure out what your audience responds to best. Is it a picture of you showing some of your friends, you and your friends together phone banking? Is it a picture of the long line outside of the town hall that you're about to go to? If you're sharing an article, you'll also figure out what works best for your audience over time. Some people in some states, in some areas, respond to different issues in different ways. You guys are the experts on your state. You guys know what matters. And as you experiment with posting different kinds of content, you'll get some kind of like anecdotal proof for yourself of what you feel like people respond to. The other thing that's really good for Twitter is giving people links to volunteer and links to attend events and giving them ways to get involved. The important thing on Twitter is to, one, make sure that you're asking people to attend. It's kind of like telling someone that there's a party but not telling them that they can come. So ask people to attend. Tell them you would love to see them there. Tell them to retweet if they're also going to go. Try and include in your copy things like date, time, location, any of those things to kind of bring down the barrier to entry for other people and make it easier for them to be like, oh, well, I live in Maryland too, and I would love to go. And make it a little bit easier for them to decide it's something that they can do. So mechanics of tweeting. How do you use photos and videos? Like we said, photos and videos are a really good way to kind of show the grassroots energy on the ground, like show how many people are showing up for meetings on a Tuesday night, and show like how involved you are. And they also tend to perform much better on Twitter than posts that are just text or also just links to articles. People like those better, particularly videos. Like I said, you can attach up to 4 photos in a single tweet, and you can upload up to 2 minutes and 20 seconds of video on a standard account. It's really easy. Twitter has made it really, really easy to add photos and videos, which means there's no need in a tweet to link to a YouTube video. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. One, it takes you away from Twitter, and it takes you away from interacting with your account. And your goal is to get more people to interact with your account, be interested in what you have to say, and be looking out for like what you think about an issue. So if you want to add something, you can just click this button down here that says Add Photos or Video right on the bottom left corner. If you're on your phone, it will pull up your camera roll, so you can add photos or video from there. If you're on your computer, it'll pull up your library, your Finder, whatever it is, and you can upload photos and video from there. Like I said a little bit before, if I can give one piece of advice, it's take your photos and videos in landscape mode, particularly because of the way things appear on Twitter. It's much, much easier to actually see the whole video if it's in landscape. So a few other best practices. Twitter is often where people go for breaking news and information. And often that means people will search for things by state-specific hashtags. So if you have something that's highly relevant to a particular area or a particular race, this one right here, you'll see the hashtag is NHPolitics for all things New Hampshire. That is a really good way to make your stuff easier to find, and it's also a good way that you have a good chance of introducing one or more people to either your presence online or the campaign generally, or a facet of the campaign that they didn't know about before. It helps kind of tell the story from a different angle, and is a really good way to showcase the things that you find important for this particular topic, or pictures or things that you're doing that would make people want to be involved. Other stuff, Twitter is a really good place, like we said before, to get people involved to come to events. And these two, both the Texas Democratic Party and the Maine Democratic Party here, did a really good job of that in two totally different ways. If you look at the Texas Democrats, it's kind of like a pre-buttal to whatever is happening, reminding people that something is coming up, reminding them why it's important, and asking them to do something about it, right? Make a plan to vote on May 6th. And then conversely, the Maine Democrats did a really good job of taking pictures of people interacting at public forums, of people standing up, asking questions. It makes it look easy and approachable, and then conversely consequently makes it easier for people to want to attend next time. It's a good way to make people want to be a part of what you're doing. Other stuff, kind of a little bit of a different angle here. Just use pictures. Tell the story. Tell the story of the list that you're using to go knock doors in the morning. Take a selfie of you and the person that you're canvassing with your clipboard. Digital is really about relaying what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to people who might not otherwise know. Making it timely, making it effective, and making it feel like there's an authentic presence for people who want to be involved, or for people who aren't sure that they want to be involved, and seeing the good stuff that you put out will make them want to be make them want to get there. And another good one, this one's a little bit different than the other ones that we were talking about, but like sometimes simple is best. Ask for what you want. This is a really good idea. The Wisconsin Dems just asked for what they wanted. They said, post pictures, tag us, and gave people examples of the good hashtags to use. And this also makes people want to get involved, because they think if they follow the directions that you're asking, that there's a chance that they get a little love from you, like maybe you're going to retweet something that they're saying, and it makes people feel special, and everybody wants to feel special, particularly in a place that feels as big and daunting as the internet is. So let's talk a little bit about hashtags. For people who are unfamiliar, hashtags are the thing that are like a pound sign followed by a bit of text that, like we said, helps people find a whole bunch of information about a specific topic by searching for that hashtag, people who follow the hashtag. My biggest piece of advice here would be, do not use hashtags just for the sake of using them. Take time to research ones that seem appropriate and relevant to what you're talking about. And also, please don't use a bunch of hashtags in a single tweet. It's confusing for users. It's hard to read. And then your stuff doesn't seem as focused as it should be. Always be on the lookout for local hashtags that are relevant to the community that you're organizing in, whether it's the state hashtags like NHPolitics, whether it's a specific race, like if it's a Kentucky Senate hashtag KYSN race, or looking down at Georgia, whether or not they have their own creative hashtag like Flip the Six, which is what they're doing in the Georgia 6th district right now, which is really easy. One important thing about them, if you're creating your own, keep it short. Like I said, you only have 140 characters. If you make a hashtag that is 20 characters long, that limits what people can say about whatever you're asking them to engage in. If you're having a conversation and you sound really digital literate, if you ask someone like, what's the hashtag that we should use in this conversation, using relevant hashtags helps you become a dependable source for information about particular issues, because it plugs you into the right conversations at the right time. People start seeing your name over and over again, and they think, oh yeah. They often talk about the state of the budget as it relates to the legislative session, so whatever they're saying probably is important and probably makes sense. My one piece of advice also is, if you are planning to create your own hashtag for an event or a project or a race, go into Twitter, type the whole hashtag into the search bar. The ideal scenario is that nobody else is using it and it's all yours, and the only thing that is ever going to come up for it is stuff that you put online or you've asked other people to put online for it. That said, there's a lot of people who use Twitter, and that's not always possible. The second best thing is to make sure it's not used for anything weird or gross or inappropriate. It sounds a little strange, but it happens more than you might think, that you think you have a really good thing going on, and it's really for a singles website or something weird, and we don't want that. So just take the time, type it in, make sure that there's nothing weird associated with it. Really quickly, I just want to go over one hashtag that's really an example of something really good and that was used really well. And that hashtag is #FlintWaterCrisis. And this was started on the ground in Michigan. This was picked up by a bunch of activists and people who work in local politics and reporters and organizations on the ground, and was conversely, and after that was then used as the national hashtag for how to talk about this conversation. And this is, all these are from different angles. Some of these are organizations, some of them are activists, some of them are people getting involved. But because of how prevalent this hashtag was in the conversation, they knew to use it, and this is how people still find, 3 years after the fact, the relevant information. So it doesn't really matter if you are a national organization with 100,000 followers, a local organization with 200 followers, or just yourself. Hashtags are a good way to build your presence and organize your base. Just make sure that you're paying attention to what other people are using and using what seems common and seems what people are following to follow whatever issue you're doing. So yeah, this is a really good example of one. So other stuff, regularly share great content. What is great content and how do you find it? One thing to do is to follow key accounts. That means your local newspapers, your local TV stations, the reporters, particularly the political or criminal justice or government reporters for those stations, local leaders, county or local level Democratic leaders, local level candidates, activists, the president of your local NAACP chapter, the list goes on and on and on. And take a cue from them. What kind of things are they sharing? What seems important to them from your state? And helps you figure out what works and what doesn't work. Helps you build your own efforts, and conversely helps you build your, again, reputation as a reputable source of information. And also just gives you good karma. When you follow those people, sometimes they'll follow you back. Sometimes they'll retweet the things that you say to a larger audience than you have. And that's a good thing. And when you're sharing other people's work, they remember it, and they're more likely to share things from you in the future. So let's talk about a relatively new Twitter feature, which is quoting a tweet. This is a good example from Oregon. Quoting a tweet is a good thing to use if you're using it sparingly. It highlights that you are essentially retweeting something someone else has said, that you think it's so important that you want to make sure all your followers see that same information. But it also allows you to add your own commentary to whatever it is. This tweet is a really good example because not only did they retweet, they broadened the audience by using a hashtag that other people are using in MotorVoter, and they tagged the people that they wanted to see the tweet. Notice the hashtags. Take a cue from these guys. Also feel free to add an emoji, 1, 2, maybe not 7, if that helps your cause. So let's talk about how to quote a tweet. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to find a tweet that you like. You're going to click the retweet button, which is this middle button in green down here. After that, there's going to be a box that comes up that says retweet this to your followers with a button or with an option that says add a comment. Just go ahead and click in there, type your reaction or your commentary or whatever you'd like to add to that tweet where it says add a comment. Go ahead and add your comment and then press tweet. And it will show up just like the Oregon Dems one did with the original tweet on the bottom and their commentary on the top. Retweeting. Retweeting is a really good way to amplify your message, the messages of similar accounts that are talking about similar things that you're talking about. It'll show up on people's timelines who retweeted a specific post. For instance, this is a good one where SEIU retweeted something that the Advancement Project did because they felt like it was relevant to projects they were working on or things that their audience would find engaging. Replying. So Twitter has recently changed their reply feature, so we're going to talk about it a little bit. There are a few things here that I want to talk about. Usernames of the people you're applying to, in this case on the left-hand side where it says New Mexico Dems and Hector Balderas, used to take up characters in your reply tweet, meaning you had less space to say what you wanted. That's no longer the case. Yay. Twitter, this is, like I said, this is new. It can be a little bit more confusing though, because before when it was really easy to just delete someone's username from the tweet, if you didn't want to reply to everyone, it's a little bit more difficult. What you should do now, on the left-hand side where it says replying to @NMDems and @Hector Balderas, go ahead and click that. That's a link, and it will open up this, this other window here where you can uncheck people that you don't want to reply to, which is particularly helpful if a conversation has gotten out of hand. There's 5 or 6 or 7 people responding to something and you don't really want to be a part of that whole thing. You can just respond to the people for whom you feel like it is relevant. So other good things to know, amplify your supporters and your key accounts. If they post pictures of themselves canvassing, phone banking, setting up for an event, helping clean up from a county meeting, retweet it, quote tweet it and say thank you. Quote tweet it, say thank you, and tell people how they can come to the next one. Let your supporters know that you're active online. Tag yourself in pictures. Put up posters either in your office or at events that you're holding that list your accounts, both your account handles or if there's a specific hashtag that you guys use, going back to the NH Politics one that we were talking about before, to talk about a lot of things. Put those up. Just having them on the wall makes people a little bit more likely to use them. One thing that I want to address here is when you're amplifying supporters and key accounts, and it's particularly important for us always, but especially now, to be emphasizing our shared values as a party. Look for photos that have happy people. Look for photos that have people who are fighting for the same thing. If people are canvassing for a particular candidate in your community, or if there's many candidates, find pictures of people holding a sign for each different candidate. It really helps convey a sense of authenticity online, and authentic online communication is important. People can tell when you're BSing them. So good. One more thing about retweeting, a few things here. It's a really good way, retweeting, just straight up retweeting, no replying, no quote tweeting, is a good way to amplify important campaigns, important elected officials, people that you wish would get a little bit more attention. And also to kind of, like we were talking about before, reward supporters and volunteers for their great work, for all the time that they're giving up for free to help you out. So here's some good examples, and then you'll be able to tell at the top who retweeted which things, in this case, South Carolina and Virginia parties, retweeting their state chair or their county chair in this case. This is great to kind of help amplify those accounts and get them a little bit more attention. Like, retweet your state chair, retweet your county chair, retweet your organizers, retweet your super vols. As long as they're tweeting something that you think is amplifying the message that you want to put forward, they're fair game. Okay, there's obviously like much more to know, but questions about Twitter?
And I'll only ask maybe one question. I know that we are quickly running late on time, and just so you all know, this session will likely go to about 7:15. We do want to answer as many questions as possible at the end, but I'll just ask one question here, and then you'll move on to Instagram and actually having a digital program out in your states and counties. So one of the most popular questions that I'm seeing is, how do you grow your followers? I'm sure that's probably the million-dollar question, or how do you get your tweets to a wider audience?
Yeah. So one of the best things, like, I can't emphasize enough using the same hashtags that other people are using. If you are talking about a specific race a lot, whether it's a governor's race or a local race or whatever, and there's a hashtag for that race, use it when you talk about that race. You would be surprised how many people find their information on whatever's going on that race by going to Twitter, typing in the hashtag, and seeing what comes up. Otherwise, there's always the option of going and following more people. Like, find more people that you find interesting. You would be surprised how many people follow you back. Other than that, like we talked about a little bit, like, amplify the content of people you find interesting. Like I said, it gives you a little bit of good karma, and people remember when you engage with the things that you say or that they say, and they're more likely to engage with you at a later date. There's one person on my Twitter who favorites and retweets everything I tweet all the time. His name is Andy, and I remember that about him even though I've never met him, because he engages with me all the time.
Perfect.
So be nice, be social.
Perfect. One more question really quickly before we move on to Instagram and digital programs. And I see that a lot of you are asking about trolls, which is very funny. All of us want to know what to do about trolls. Heather's going to address that later in the webinar. But really quickly, a comment/question, isn't Twitter post-peak? What do you think about the idea that Twitter's kind of post-peak?
I think that changes very often. And Twitter's always kind of been a platform for a little bit more of like insider people. A lot of reporters use Twitter. A lot of campaigns and stuff use Twitter. That said, like, if you enjoy it, then it's not post-peak. And I also think if you're working on an official account, or if you're trying to do something on behalf of an organization, it's still a really important way to amplify your message. If you don't want to use it personally, that's like fine, all you. But I still think it has a really wide reach and good for your audience. Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. Really quickly here, just because I know that we're running out of time, I do want to do a quick pop quiz question, and then we are going to get back into content because I don't want you all to miss the rest of the presentation. So really quickly, pop quiz, hands on your keyboard and ready to go. Earlier in the webinar, Heather mentioned the very short adult attention span, and in that she said that web users will abandon a site that hasn't loaded within how many seconds? Whoa, you all are really fast. The answer was 3 seconds, so let's see who the first person was here. Give me just a second. I am seeing 12 minutes. John Patrick, you are the first one. So John, if you'll type your address into the questions box, we'll send you a prize from the ASDC. So with that, Heather, I will let you continue.
Awesome. Okay, we're just going to talk really quickly about Instagram, because Instagram is kind of like bonus points after you feel comfortable on Facebook and Twitter. The good thing about Instagram is that there's a lot of young people on it, so it's a really good way to engage those folks. It is, however, very different than other types of social media, so before you launch it, you should find someone who can either take pictures for the account or curate and find pictures for that account. You should aim to post about once a week. A few tips on Instagram. Instagram is a good place to provide information that people wouldn't see otherwise, particularly wouldn't see on Facebook or Twitter. It is a really good place to highlight stories of your supporters, why they come out, why they consider themselves Democrats, why they're excited about this. Generally, and like this photo is an exception because it's a story from a supporter, candid photos or unexpected photos are better than posed photos on Instagram. You do not want to look like you took all your Instagram photos with a super high def camera. And I also wouldn't suggest having an Instagram that's full of just ready-made graphics. You do not want someone to go to your Instagram account and have it look like a dump site for graphics that you also put on Facebook and Twitter. Instagram, if you look at individual people's Instagram accounts, it's very personal. Instagram is supposed to feel personal and supposed to convey a lot of feeling. It shouldn't just look like a laundry list of graphics or ads for people that you want things, you want to go to things. So this is a good example of someone taking a kind of organic picture that's a cool picture from a really cool spot. Like, look at all these people who are excited to be a part of the Women's March. One more thing on Instagram is that if you see here, there's also hashtags. Hashtags on Instagram are just as important as hashtags on Twitter. Like we talked about for Twitter, this is how people will type it into their search bar, and this is how they will find other people who they think are of like interest, who they should follow. And then one more thing to know about Instagram is that links do not work in Instagram posts. So you can put them in there, but you can't click on them. So if you really need to use a link in Instagram, you can use a short one that people will remember, like store.democrats.org or just democrats.org or the site to your homepage. It should be something very easy for folks to remember. Or the other option is that your Instagram bio gives you the option to add one general link. And so what I always find most effective is like making it a volunteer link or a link for an event that's particularly timely. And when you're writing about it, write what you need to say and then write link in bio, and it will convince people to then go to your page, which leads to more followers and more likes and people looking at more of your content, and those lets them click through to a link. Like these right here. Instagram, very short questions about Instagram. Great. And then we're going to just talk about really quickly how to add a digital program. I think people think it's a little bit harder than it is. So after you get started yourself online, the next step is helping campaigns and organizations you care about do the same. I'm going to talk about how this is like a virtuous cycle of organizing, circle of organizing, I don't know. So virtuous circle of organizing is online action and offline action and how they work together. So you have offline action, which is often considered your traditional campaign activities, collecting names, collecting emails and personal stories and phone numbers, taking pictures because people took pictures before Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and they will after, and then explaining the next step for people to take action. You can take that and make it online action. Share those stories and pictures that you took on Instagram, on Twitter. Update your supporters on how the things that you were doing went. If you collected a bunch of emails and names at an event, give them a wrap-up of how that event went and what they should do next. It's important to always ask people to take an action and take the next step. And once people take the next step, you can post that activity. Post them coming to the phone bank that you asked them to come to. Promote it, make it look like people are having fun, and engage them. And then that leads to more offline action. Helps create trust, helps create relationships and a sense of authenticity moving forward. So how do you add digital to your work? Sit down at the beginning of a project or a campaign season or a big field operation or a big push to do anything and ask yourself, who will be responsible for posting on social media? How much time do they have? If you have someone who already has a really full plate, they don't have a bunch of time to post on social media. It takes a lot more time to curate good content that people want to hear and give them ways to take action than you think. And that's one of the biggest mistakes people don't give people. People don't build in enough time to make their digital program work. What are big events that you know are happening that you want to have a digital component? Do you have someone really exciting coming to a county dinner that you want to make sure that you can take behind the scenes photos of or do a Facebook Live or promote on Twitter? Build a calendar around promoting that event, around asking people to come. Maybe try and make a graphic that has the name of the person on it and the date of the event. Either consider asking a friend to photograph or capture the event or capture it yourself. It's actually, the cameras on your phones are much, much better than you give them credit for. And for a lot of these purposes, taking pictures like that is totally acceptable. Other things to do, ask to get photos from the field. Maybe talk to your volunteers or your organizers about getting one photo and one story a week. Maybe ask them to post their own photos and stories to their own social media. Use a hashtag and then send it to you when they post it, so you can retweet it or quote tweet it, or ask them and post it yourself. You can ask staff and volunteers to take pictures and send you photos. I've done this a lot where I haven't gotten to go to an event, but I'll ask someone before they go, like, hey, can you take a big picture of the group, or can you make sure you take a picture of so-and-so speaking and send it to me, and who's talking, what are they talking about, what's the purpose of the event, and use the information that they send you to craft your own text for what you're doing. Similar to that, you can find a volunteer digital coordinator, which I'm sure a lot of you are right now. Those people can post photos online, help ask other people to send in their photos and stories, other volunteers to talk to send in their own stories, or to seek other stories out and send them in. You want someone to do this who regularly reads the news, has a good grasp of what issues are important in your state, because that helps them really find relevant content to post that people will want to engage with. You also want people to be careful about what they post, particularly in the era of like fake news. You want to make sure that the stuff you're posting is real and true. Make sure you have people who will double check that nothing looks fishy. Make sure that it doesn't like come from a site that doesn't seem real, like the Daily News Bin. And then those people can also kind of create a posting schedule for all the platforms. You should post on Facebook maybe once a day, Twitter 2 times or 3 times. You can post on Instagram once a week if you have it. The one piece of advice I would have is to always have an approvals process. The person who writes and finds this content shouldn't be the person who proofreads and approves it. Have someone else in the process who can make sure there are no spelling errors, who can make sure that they're not saying something that's maybe a little bit outside of what the organization is comfortable saying, and that like the links that they're posting to work, don't take you to a weird spot. I thought last weekend I linked to an article entitled "The Dumbest Things People Ever Bought on Twitter." It's important to have someone check what you're doing. And talking about that, create and plan. Create a calendar, use a Google Calendar, use a spreadsheet, whatever works for you to put together events, or keep track of regular events and how you can use digital to promote those things. Ask people to come, and then ask people to take the next step afterwards. And like we said before, the most important thing here is to always tell your story. Tell your story with an authentic voice. Talk about the work you're doing, why it's important, and how other people who think it's important can get involved. If you have people who are posting pictures of them phone banking or canvassing, quote tweet their tweet and tell them thank you. Always give credit to your supporters. Celebrate your supporters and your volunteers for all the work that they're doing. And if you have people that you feel like you're thanking all the time and like they don't have a Twitter and you can't thank them on the internet the same way you'd like to, I don't know, maybe ask them. Now ask them to get involved. Other than volunteers, it's also helpful to tell stories of staff. Why are people involved in this? What makes them passionate about this particular issue? Tell stories of people who, voters who recently decided to vote for your candidate or your ballot initiative or attend your town hall. And then if you're asking people to take an action on Twitter, whether it's call your congressperson, attend town hall, report back and tell them how it went. Even if you don't know how many calls you made, you can say thank you. It's really making a difference. Keep it up. So that's super important. And then just really quickly, we're just going to talk about a few things not to do. I'm going to skip the whole part where I tell you not to post fake things or offensive things and just assume that you guys will never do that. First things first, something a lot of people do, linking their Facebook to their Twitter account. Don't do it. One, you should be posting on Twitter a lot more than you post on Facebook. So if you're posting to both at the same time, your Facebook looks really saturated and is frankly kind of annoying. If you are doing that right now, the first thing that you should do after you hop off this webinar is undo it. These two platforms are unique. They have different audiences and they deserve different attention. Also, on Twitter, I understand that you can use hashtags, but people don't really. Don't hashtag random things, just like write it out. If I understand that it's an easy way to do it, but you're speaking in a totally different way, you're speaking to different audiences, and sometimes you may be asking them different things. So just err on the side of not. So avoid posts like this. I decided to use a GOP post here because I thought it'd be nice. There's a few problems with this. There's no substance in this post. Nobody added their own copy to tell you why this is interesting or why you should read it. It includes no photo where there should be one. I realize some websites are weird. I just don't post photos and you post links and you think they should. A really easy way to do this is to just try it out. Just paste the link in that you want to put on Facebook, and a link and something that looks exactly like this should come up. If it doesn't have a photo, then it's not going to have a photo when you post it. And think about posting something else or uploading a photo to go with it, or something like that to make it more interesting to people. The bigger thing here is that this maybe comes from someplace that's not real. DonaldTrumpNews.co doesn't sound like a real website. So if you are posting websites and articles, do your due diligence to make sure that they're solid sources. And if that means that you stick to the same 4 local media outlets or the same 10 reporters or other groups, that's okay. You can add in some national outlets. Don't feel like you need to post the most inflammatory thing just to get yourself some clicks. Other things. Example of something that's not great. This is a little bit old, but this is a good example. Names are redacted to protect the guilty. This tweet, it's not bad. It just doesn't have enough information. What election is it? Who should I vote for? When should I go? When do the polls close? Where does that link you're posting take me? Think about if someone had no knowledge about what you're saying, what would they need to know in order to participate? And try and include those things in your posts. And then one other thing, and I know that someone asked about this earlier, please do not feed the trolls. It is not worth it. All it will do is cause you heartache. And I'm not putting up any screenshots here because, like, frankly, they just don't even deserve it. There are plenty of people on the internet whose only goal is to be mean to other people. You don't have to do that. If you are, you can block someone. If you're afraid of blocking them, there's also an option to mute them, which means that they just don't show up in your replies or your timeline. You don't get notifications about them anymore. So it kind of absolves you of that problem in your life. Same thing on Facebook. You can hide individual comments so that only the person who wrote it and their friends see it. Not the whole world has to see it. You can block people if you feel like it's necessary. Don't feel bad about blocking people if you feel like it's necessary. My only piece of advice would be, particularly if you're running an organizational account, don't immediately block anyone who says any mean thing to you. Everybody has salty days. Some people are just mean people. But the last thing you want to do is be accused of censoring the people who come to your page. So to do this kind of work, you kind of have to grow a little bit of a thick skin. But that said, no one should ever have to feel threatened or unsafe interacting with people online. Don't be afraid to block people if it will improve your quality of life. Questions?
Great, perfect. I know we are at about 7:14, so we are, right at the end of sort of when our webinars are typically supposed to end. But I know that social media is such a hot topic. There is always lots of questions. So I do want to pause here and give you all some next steps for T3. And then those of you who have questions and want to stick around and listen to answers, I will keep us a little bit longer. Hopefully Heather doesn't mind sticking around for a few more minutes to answer some questions. But for those of you who have to leave right now, as always, you'll receive an evaluation at the conclusion of the webinar. you'll get an email with an evaluation. Give us some feedback on the webinar. Let us know what you thought so that we can continue to do our best to provide the best trainings for you all. Secondly, next week we will start our grassroots organizing series. I'm really excited. We've got a special guest in line. I will not tell you who that is right now, but it'll be a very special guest joining us next Wednesday for our second part of the grassroots organizing training. That link will go out to you on Friday, so be on the lookout for that. Also on Friday, you will receive recorded links from both Monday and today, as well as last week's recorded links, and all of the PowerPoints from these 4 presentations that we've had. So be on the lookout for all of that on Friday. As always, if you all have any questions or concerns, email us at the ASDC. Our email address is asdc@dnc.org. So feel free to email us, and that is it as far as my housekeeping items. Again, if you have to leave, I completely understand. Enjoy your dinner. But for those of you who have questions, we'll stick around and have Heather answer a few questions before we go. So, and Heather, you're getting some great feedback here in the questions box. Lots of folks are saying, great job, great session.
Thank you.
But right into the questions. This is a big one, will always be a big one. How do you tell fake news from real news on social media?
Yes, okay. There's a lot of good advice out there about that. I'm going to give a few tips, but if people are really interested, like you can literally, there's a bunch of sites that help give very good tips on how to tell fake news. One, most websites in the United States use .com or .org. If you're seeing other domains like .ru or other things like that, that's a good indicator that maybe things are a little bit shady. Click through the article. If your news is, if this is a site that's telling you it's ABC News, go to that website. Does anything look fishy? Does it say ABC New? Does it say something that's a little bit different? One of the things that people do when they're posting kind of shady articles is to make a URL very, very close to something that a normal website is using, to try and like confuse people. And most of the time, people will look over something that's like one letter different than something that they're used to seeing. So just kind of look around and like use your own common sense. Does this feel right? Does this feel like maybe this is a little bit weird? In addition to that, there's a bunch of websites that have popped up on both sides of the aisle that have a pretty aggressive slant for their news. Republicans are not the only people guilty of having websites like Breitbart and the Daily Caller. There are a few sites among the progressive end of the spectrum that are also maybe sensationalizing things a bit. I'm not sure of any examples right now. I can think of things like the Palmer Report and ShareBlue that have been maybe a little bit more free with their fact checking than some other more reputable sites like normal network news sites like the Washington Post, the New York Times, LA Times, things like that. If all else fails and you see an article and you're like, I'm not really sure what this is, take the name of the article. Let's just say it's Washington Post for the sake of doing this. And you can Google Washington Post slant. And sometimes there'll be a good Wikipedia page that comes up that says such and such of a site is known for being a particularly conservative site or a particularly liberal site. If something's a liberal site, that doesn't mean you shouldn't share it, but that just should mean that you take a minute and make sure that do a gut check with yourself that this all still feels okay and feels true. There is no good answer right now for literally anyone on how you tell fake news. Facebook is trying to do better about pointing it out, but that's something we're all going to have to work on together.
Okay, another question here. Have you found one social media platform or strategy particularly helpful for rural or older areas?
Generally, the audience of Facebook is more geographically widespread and older than the audiences of other platforms. Not to say there's not a really great age differential on Twitter, but Facebook definitely skews older than other platforms. So if you're looking to reach those kind of voters, I would definitely start there.
Great. Any thoughts on Snapchat or other platforms?
Yes. The important thing about when Snapchat is great. the important thing about Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest and anything else that you've ever heard of that you're like, maybe we should be on that. All of those things are great, but they're not strictly necessary. You should use them if you feel like you have the capacity and the ability to put good content on them. You shouldn't just make an account for the sake of having an account. That said, Snapchat's a really good way to reach younger people. Opposite of Facebook, the Snapchat audience skews very, very young, mostly under the age of 30, which is a great way to reach younger people. It's a great way to like take videos of kind of like behind the scenes, people in line waiting to get into an event, like people filling in to a phone bank or something like that. That's a really good thing to do. There's a bunch of Snapchat best practices available on the internet, on Lifehacker and Mashable and a bunch of other sites that can help you get started. But like I said, only do that if you feel like you have the capacity to do so.
Perfect. Couple other questions here. One about Slack from Skip Madsen, and then John McKenna, I'm getting to your question in just a second. Skip Madsen is asking, we started a little Facebook group called DemEnter and use Slack for our digital office, but that intimidates some newbies. Do you have other suggestions instead of Slack for online social organizing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I love Slack. I understand why you would use it. I also understand why it can be very intimidating to some folks. There should be some pretty good resources online from Slack of kind of like a how-to, a 101 to kind of demystify, lower the barriers to entry for people who may feel a little bit intimidated by it. Otherwise, Google Hangouts is another good thing to use if your operation runs on Google or Google Docs. You can have video chats. You can have group chats. You can chat about a document in Google Docs specifically. And all of those are kind of like good alternatives. I'd still recommend like slowly bringing people onto Slack, but I understand that that can take a while, and that's okay.
Perfect. Another question here from John McKenna, and a couple other people had this question. What solid measures of success should we be tracking to ensure our social media efforts are effective in achieving our goals?
Sure. So if you take a look at, and this answer differs for everyone a little bit, but if you take a look at your Twitter analytics, one of the good things to look at is your engagement rate. So based on however many people saw your tweet, which is called an impression, however many impressions your tweet got, there's a percentage of people who saw it who engaged with it, which is something I've always found very helpful. Like even if I have a lot of people see something I tweet, if only 1% of people are engaging with it, then that's not great. But if a relatively small number of people are seeing it and 10% of people engage with it, then it's still a better tweet. Facebook reach is a really good measure to figure out how successful something is. Facebook reach solely refers to how many people are seeing something that you put on Facebook. If it's like an event invite or video or something, shares are also a really good way to figure out how dynamic and how engaging it is for people.
Okay, very lighthearted question here, strictly your opinion. Are cats, as in the four-legged animals that say meow, are they really the key to capturing attention?
Cats are always the key to capturing attention. No, obviously, like cat videos do really well on Twitter, and like cat GIFs, and everybody loves them. Maybe don't use them in everything, but using them sparingly once in a while as a reaction GIF is not the worst idea I've ever heard.
Good deal. A couple more questions here.
Sure.
Should Facebook groups be open or closed? Paul Nelson is asking.
Sure. So if you are running like a county Facebook group, you should have that group open. You want people to be able to join without having to feel like someone has to give them permission. This is, again, about lowering barriers to entry and making this organizing presence seem accessible to people who've never done it before and are maybe a little bit scared. So like use your county groups to like invite people to events, to like use your own pages, to share interesting articles, to share photos of really successful events that you guys have had. The only way I would say that the group should not be open is if it's a like particular group of like super active people, and you guys are like using Facebook to plan events and cover shifts and kind of doing kind of like the behind the scenes sausage making part of it, and maybe that you want to keep that between you guys. But otherwise, the more the merrier, and making sure that people have a way to get involved.
Great. A couple of people are asking the same question. They are not really clear on how to tag someone or the purpose of tagging someone. So can you clarify that? Someone says, just to get to the question, I'm unclear as to who you can tag and what the point is. Can you clarify?
Sure. I'll start with Facebook, so I think that's a little bit newer than it is on Twitter. So if you want to tag someone on Facebook, just from a mechanical standpoint, you type the @ and start typing their name. If they're your friend, you can tag them. If they're not your friend, but they're a public page, like Elizabeth Warren's public page, or John Ossoff's public page, or the public page for a newspaper in your local area, they should come up and allow you to tag them. And what that does is makes that page a link in your own tweet where people can click the place where you said Elizabeth Warren. It will take them to Elizabeth Warren's Facebook page and kind of like helps make a more complete picture of what you're doing for people. The reason it's good to do is because it gives people more information, and also the people that you're tagging get a notification that they have been tagged, and so it makes them more likely to share the content that you're putting out, and gives their audience a better chance of seeing what you've written.
Perfect. JC Puckett has a good question here. Should you embed Facebook videos on your website or link your website from your Facebook post?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think I would work on the first end of that spectrum in embedding Facebook videos onto your site. The thing that you want if you're going to put videos on Facebook is that you do not want people to have to leave Facebook to see the video. You want people to be able to stay on your Facebook page and seeing what other people are commenting and saying and being able to say that. So if you're doing a Facebook Live or if you're uploading a video, then embed that video on your site instead of vice versa.
Perfect. A couple more questions here. What is the most effective way to use the Facebook events feature?
That's a good question. I think that Facebook events are, to use a phrase someone used earlier, a little bit post-peak. Facebook events are a good way to tell people that something is happening, but they are not a good, accurate count of how many people are actually planning to attend something. This is pretty universal, but I can't tell you how many times I've said maybe or yes to something on Facebook I knew I wasn't going to go to. And I think everyone has done that, and if you have not done that, you're lying. So that said, they're not particularly useful for getting an accurate crowd count number. It's really just if you need a central place to hold this information, and it's not going to be on a website or on a sign-up form, or you're not sending it out via an email list, a Facebook event is a good place to like just give people another way to get to that information.
Perfect. And I'm going to do a pop quiz question here shortly, but Lonnie Frank, I believe I've pronounced your name correctly, has kind of a follow-up question. How do you increase turnout for a fundraiser posted on Facebook? And my personal recommendation would be to link the Facebook post to where they can sign up and submit their email, and you follow up with them via email to confirm their attendance. But if you could speak to just how to increase turnout if you're trying to fundraise on Facebook.
Yeah, totally. Generally, the rule of thumb is that you should never ask people to take an action without giving them a way to take that action. So if you're asking them to come to a fundraiser like you were talking about, it's important to either give them the information that they need, time, date, location, to attend that event, or like Dana was saying, ask them to sign up online. You can link it to a Google form and ask people to sign up, and then you can capture that data, require people to give you their email, make it a required question, and you can take all that data, email all those people, and say, thanks for RSVPing to come to this. Here's a reminder. We really hope to see you there. And just giving people more reminders that they said that they were interested in something and said they wanted to come to something will increase your chances of getting people there.
Perfect. Really quickly here, a final pop quiz question, and then I will let you all go and enjoy your dinner, I promise. Heather mentioned earlier that there are 3 components to a strong digital program. They are organizing, messaging, and blank. What is the third? And it looks like Susan Samson, S-A-M-S-O-N, was the first one to answer. It was fundraising. Thank you, Susan. If you'll type your address into the questions box, we'll send you out a quick prize. Thank you all so much for staying with us. I know that we went a couple minutes late, but I wanted to get as many of your questions answered as possible. I really hope that you enjoyed tonight's session. Have a great evening. We will look forward to talking with you again on next Monday. Thank you.